snuck downstairs and snooped through them. The face of Dad's beloved Timex was cracked. I ran my thumb across the picture on his driver's license. Mom's fancy black clutch purse reeked of lilac from her cracked-open perfume bottle. It was the smell of her, but too strong, sickly sweet, and it hit on memories buried in my chest, making them ring like the struck bars of a xylophone. When I opened the purse, a stream of pebbled windshield glass spilled out. Some of it was red. Breathing the lilac air, I remember staring at those bloody bits scattered on the floorboards around my bare feet, all those pieces that could never be put back together. I blanked out after that, but I must have been crying because the next thing I remember was Patrick appearing from nowhere, my face pressed to his arm when he hugged me, and his voice quiet in my ear. "I got it from here, little brother." I always felt safe when Patrick was there. I never once saw him cry after my parents died. It was like he ran the math in his head, calm and steady as always, and decided that one of us had to hold it together for both of us. And since he was the big brother, that responsibility fell to him. Sue Ann and Jim, my aunt and uncle, took us in. They lived just 4 miles away, but it was the beginning of a new life. Even though I wanted time to stay frozen like it was on Dad's shattered Timex, it couldn't. And so Patrick and I and Jim and Sue Ann started over. They didn't have any kids, but they did the best they could. They tried their hardest to figure out teacher conferences and the tooth fairy and buying the right kind of toys at Christmas. They weren't cut out to be parents, but they did their damnedest. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. Patrick and I loved them for it, and they loved us right back. That doesn't mean my brother and I didn't have to grow up in a hurry. There was plenty of work to be done around the ranch and more bellies to fill. Jim had a couple hundred heads of cattle, and he bred Rhodesian Ridgebacks and shipped them off across the country as guard dogs at $2,000 a pop. Sue Ann made sure to have hot food on the table 3 times a day, and she read to us every night. I vanished into those stories. The Odyssey, Huck Finn, the Arabian Nights. As we got older, Patrick grew tired of it all, but I kept on, raiding the bookshelf, reading myself to sleep with a flashlight under the covers. I think I hid inside those fictional worlds because they kept me from thinking about how much I'd lost in the real one. By his early teens, Patrick was clearly a force to be reckoned with. He and I didn't look much alike. Strangers were usually surprised to find out we were brothers. Not that I was ugly or weak or anything, but Patrick, well, he was Patrick. He got my dad's wide shoulders and good looks, and he could ride herd and rope cattle alongside the best ranch hand, chewing a piece of straw and never breaking a sweat. The girls lost their mind over who got to wear his cowboy hat during lunchtime. Until Alex. Then, it was only her. I didn't like math so much, but I loved English and science. I didn't have Patrick's skills as a cattleman, but I wasn't afraid of hard work. I was pretty good behind a hunting rifle, almost as good as Uncle Jim himself. But the one thing I was better at than anyone was raising those puppies. Ridgebacks are lion hunters from Africa, the most fearless and loyal creatures you'll ever meet. Whenever we had a new litter, I'd play with the pups, training them up from day one. By the time they hit 2 months, they'd follow me anywhere, and by the time they were half a year old, I could put them on a sit-stay and they wouldn't move if you tried to drag them from their spot. It was hard fitting in all the work around school, but somehow I managed. And if there's one thing Dad taught me, it's that the rains don't complain. When it came time to stack the hay, Patrick always finished his part early and offered to help me on my share, but I made sure I finished it myself. Even if it was at the end of a long day. Even if it meant I had to stay up past midnight, working alone in the barn. Which was what I was doing after the dusting. The first time I'd seen Patrick nervous, for as far back as my memory could stretch. Considering everything that had been going on lately, I couldn't blame him. But hang on, let me start where it makes sense. 1 week ago. Not that any of it makes sense, but if I lay out some of what I learned later, maybe you'll be able to keep